There is nothing immutable about the healing process. I've learned many lessons over the years as it pertains to the healing process because of the hardships that I've experienced and had to persist through. In this video, I want to share some of the hardships I've experienced as it relates to my mental health. And I want to compare and contrast a 6-month long manic episode I had with a more recent hypomanic episode I had, in order to just highlight and pinpoint how different healing can look given certain circumstances. Because healing is not linear. Healing is going to look different for different people, and it's going to be variable dependent upon the conditions that a given person is faced or confronted with. When I had my 6-month long manic episode, I experienced a wide array of delusions and hallucinations. And the product of that was, in the aftermath, I fell into a deep depression because I was embarrassed and ashamed of what I went through. I felt worthless. I felt like a part of me had died as a part of my manic episode. And I understand that we all encounter challenges. I believe that what truly separates us is how we react to and overcome them. Hardship is an inescapable fact of life. There's no real way I could have predicted that I would have had a 6-month long manic episode because I wasn't diagnosed with bipolar type 1 at the time. However, I do know that I have the condition now. I went 4 years without being in college and only returned this fall. So after a 4-year prolonged absence, I returned to college with this newfound knowledge of what bipolar looks like, what the symptoms look like, what it feels like, and knowing different tactics and strategies that I can employ in order to mitigate the severity of any given episode. I had a hypomanic episode this semester. It happened very recently. It took me out of school. It caused me to lose sleep. I experienced a myriad of racing thoughts relating to my self-worth and my competency and ability to succeed in school. And I started to engage in a plethora of negative self-talk, a never-ending stream of negative self-talk. However, what's significant about this more recent hypomanic episode is that I was able to catch it. I was able to notify my psychiatrist. I was able to formulate a plan for treatment. I had a medication adjustment, which worked and allowed me to get back into the classroom and start to experience a degree of consistency once more. Although this episode was caught early, it did have larger implications because as a result of this episode, I fell extraordinarily behind in my classes. And I collaborated with the Student Accessibility Service Office in order to get assignment extensions and so forth, in order to empower me to catch up and get caught up with assignments. And I mostly did that. But there's something I got to draw to your attention. Unfortunately, I will not be going to school next semester. I will be taking a break. And I know that might sound so crazy to some of y'all because, you're probably thinking, you just took a 4-year break. What do you mean you're taking a break? Well, I'm taking a break because I do need to heal. I need to recover. I need to get my sleeping patterns back on track into a healthy place. I need to get my mind to a stable place. And I do have a bit of news to share in that regard. I am going to be entering a partial hospitalization program. I've been admitted, and I start this coming Monday. And it's going to be about 10 to 15 days, 5 hours of group therapy and treatment per day. I've been to partial before 2 other times in my life and experienced profound success from being part of it. And I'm cautiously optimistic that I'll experience some degree of success again. I ardently believe that this is the right decision. It's not that I went to school too early or that I, pushed things too soon or took on more than I can. It's just the nature of this illness. It's unpredictable. And the impulsivity of this illness can have catastrophic consequences. So I want to get ahead of the curve, and I want to kind of knock it dead in the water before it can exacerbate and become something much more serious. The gravity of the situation, given my past hardships with mania, I've talked about in previous videos how I'm afraid of having another manic episode, and newsflash, I had one. It was hypomanic. It wasn't 6 months long, but it was damaging enough to convince and persuade myself that I need to take time off. So I won't be returning to school until ideally fall of next year. But I have to look at the positives here. I think that positive perspective is the key to success in any endeavor. I made progress towards my degree. 12 credits closer to getting my bachelor's in communication with a minor in pre-law. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some skepticism about my ability to succeed and pursue my dreams, because part of me will always want to be a lawyer. I feel like it's a job that I was made to do. It's something that I could be passionate about, and it would be so intrinsically rewarding. But another part of me says it would be selfish of me to pursue that, given the unpredictable nature of my illness. Suppose I'm a disability lawyer helping people get Social Security benefits, and I have an episode that takes me away from representing my 100 plus clients. That's 100 people who are affected by my illness, my inability, my incompetence. That is the product of my illness. And so I have some ambivalent feelings about my long-term future, and that's okay. This isn't the first time in my life that I've had that. And I've been doing the best I can to not compare myself to others, because if I do that, I know it's going to lead to a downward spiral. Comparison is the enemy of growth, the enemy of healthy decision making. It's the antithesis of healthy decision making. I could sit here and self-loathe all day and compare myself to people who are the same age, who achieved more in the same amount of time, but they haven't dealt with the same conditions and circumstances that I have. So what's the point in doing that? It's not an apples to apples comparison. Instead of focusing on what other people have achieved, I need to focus on where I am, how far I've come, and how far I can go. I believe that that's the key to my success. As far as dealing with my racing thoughts, I have employed some scale of coping, not on a massive scale, but I've employed some coping mechanisms in order to try to help alleviate my racing thoughts. I've been practicing mindfulness. I've been practicing meditation in the form of like deep breathing exercises and acknowledging my thoughts without forming a strong opinion on them, just acknowledging their existence and then moving on to the next thought. And I found it to be helpful and feel like it has reduced my racing thoughts to a degree, to an extent. So in conclusion, there are some positives about my hypomanic episode. I am personally very proud of the way that I handled it, given the contrast to how I handled my previous manic episode. I feel like I'm getting ahead of the curve, and that I was able to, knock this problem dead in the water before it could exacerbate and become something more severe. And of course, I'm grateful for that. This could have been much worse, and this is not the end of Tyler Adolfo, not even close. As Winston Churchill once said, this is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end, but rather it is an end to the beginning. That was Winston Churchill. Folks, I'm only just getting started. Stay tuned, subscribe, like the video so more people can see it. Love, light, and tranquility to all. Peace.